Hey, what up, everybody? It's your boy AJTRIP. Welcome to That's a Shoot. A weekly episodic show where I talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Got a couple of things to talk about today, and then of course we got a main topic. So let's go ahead, jump right into it. Earlier this week, WWE announced its pay-per-view schedule for 2022. Here's what we have on the docket: Saturday, January 1st, Day 1 at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Saturday, January 29th, the Royal Rumble at the Dome at America Center in St. Louis, Missouri. For those of you who may have wondered, maybe one of the reasons why, well, we'll get to it in the end. Saturday, April 2nd, and Sunday, April 3rd, WrestleMania at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Sunday, May 8th, the pay-per-view at Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. Sunday, June 5th, pay-per-view at Allstate Arena in Chicago, Rosemont, Illinois. Saturday, July 2nd, Money in the Bank at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Saturday, July 30th, SummerSlam at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Saturday, September 3rd or Sunday, September 4th, pay-per-view at a to-be-determined location. And Saturday, November 26th, Survivor Series at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. So, as you can see here, there are some difference in a pay-per-view schedule, right, than what they are known to give us, right? So this year we have no December pay-per-view, and that's going to be the January pay-per-view on day one, right? So they've got that. On Saturday, January 29th, is the Royal Rumble. I think even though they kind of want to do more Saturday pay-per-views, I think the reason why this in particular is on a Saturday is because of what the NFL has done. The NFL has added an extra week to their season, meaning that normally the Royal Rumble would be on the Sunday in between the NFC and AFC championship games and in between the Super Bowl. But that Sunday would usually be the last Sunday in January. But because of what they've done now, that last Sunday in January would be the NFC and AFC championship games. And I would probably say maybe about 7-8 years ago, they actually, for some ridiculous reason, decided to put the Royal Rumble on Championship Sunday, and I think they realized that was such a stupid decision. But now, since with all of this happening now, this is a great idea, moving it to the Saturday before, because there will be no football on that Saturday. So they decided to put the Royal Rumble on that Saturday, and that's a good shout by them. What's not a good shout by them is doing another two-night WrestleMania. I find this ridiculous and stupid. Okay, I understand why you do it on WrestleMania. You do it at 36, during the pandemic and everything like that. No crowds, no nothing, like that. I understand why you do it. I understand why you do it. This year again, because to kind of get a full gate for WrestleMania, right? Because we were still kind of in the pandemic. We hadn't got out of it yet, to the point to where they would need to, where they could have a full stadium, right? But one, you're going to Texas, which they don't care about COVID protocols or anything like that. So there's no need to do a two-night WrestleMania. The one night on Sunday is gonna have your 110,000 people that you want. That's one, and two. It's just this is not. I just don't get this. I just don't get this. I really don't. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate. 2-night WrestleManias. I dealt with them because of the pandemic, and now we are. We're not out of the pandemic, but we're in a spot to where this doesn't need to be happening. They're doing this. I find this. I hate this. I really do. I hate this. Sunday, May 8th. I don't know. It's this year it was called WrestleMania Backlash. I'm not sure what they're going to call this one. Sunday, June 5th, the pay-per-view at in Chicago. I'm going to guess that's Extreme Rules. Saturday, July 2nd, Money in the Bank. They actually announced that at during SummerSlam. Saturday, July 30th at SummerSlam. Now, some people were asking, why was SummerSlam in late July instead of in August like in normal years? I think that it may be because Nissan Stadium is the stadium for the Tennessee Titans. And there's something in my throat. I have to try to deal with it this segment and get some stuff to get on my throat, but I'm trying to deal with it. It's a home stadium for the Tennessee Titans. And in August, as most of us football fans know, there is the preseason. The preseason schedule wouldn't come out until like around April. So now I know that normally you can book a stadium in advance and then let people know that you have something in the hands. But those are mostly for basketball stadiums and maybe even baseball stadiums. This is football. NFL is king, and what and what the NFL says goes. And they also have a weird schedule. Once again, they added an extra game, so who knows who's going to be, what games they can do and when they can do them and things like that. So if they wanted to do a stadium and they wanted to do it in Tennessee, excuse me, and they wanted to do it, at Tennessee, they probably need to do it before August, so that it could be ready, the stadium could be ready for Tennessee Titans, because they're gonna have to pull up the grass and and lay stuff down and then put that stuff down over it, and then lay another thing on it, probably on top of that, and then put the chairs down on the floor on the stadium, and then the ring and everything like that. So it's probably gonna take. So then that's probably why they're doing it in Saturdays instead of doing it in September, in August, I should say. Now there's the Saturday, September 3rd or Sunday, September 4th pay-per-view at a to be determined location. Most people are saying that is going to be a UK stadium show. That's going to be done over across the pond in England somewhere, and they also mostly think that is probably going to be the weekend of All Out. So they're trying to they might be trying to go head to head with All Out, and they're going over to the pond to do so. So so we'll have to wait and see what that is announced. And we know we have Survivor Series at TD Garden in Boston in November. Now there isn't a pay-per-view scheduled for February, and there isn't a pay-per-view scheduled for March, or a pay-per-view scheduled for October. But another thing people think is they think that maybe the February/October, or not for February/March would be the first Saudi Arabia show, and then in October, just like it was this year, there would be another Saudi Arabia show, and then in December they wouldn't do another interview in December, and they would once again maybe do one early January. They would do pay-per-view early January. It would be on Sunday, but you would again, schedule has changed, so you would be again be going head to head. You not only would you be actually there would probably only be two, possibly three professional football games, but if it was on Sunday, but you would definitely be going up against college football. But we have to wait and see what happens. But that's what many people think. Many people think about this. So yeah, that is the schedule for 2022 pay-per-views from the WWE. Once again, I hate the two-night WrestleMania. I really wish the pandemic stopped for a whole, it's garbage for a whole bunch of reasons, as we know. This may be one of the worst things. It's given WWE the idea that two-night WrestleManias are actually good, and they're not. It is not. So there was a report this week saying that WWE is trying to make Roman Reigns the greatest of all time. That is very interesting because, some of the WWE Twitter accounts, they, over the course of time, they have done this question, like, who is the greatest of all time? And I have always said to them when they do these things that you can't just, you just can't lay it out there. Who is the greatest of all time, because there's so many things in wrestling that you have to break down. Talking about, and what I mentioned is who's the greatest in-ring performer? That's Shawn Michaels. Like, who is the greatest character or gimmick of all time? That's The Undertaker, right? Who is the greatest draw of all time? That's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Who is the biggest superstar ever? That's The Rock, right? And I could maybe do other ones as well, but so you just can never say the greatest of all time, the GOAT. You just can't say that someone is the GOAT when it comes to professional wrestling, because there are other things that blend into that. The greatest on the mic. Jesus, I couldn't even tell you. Mike says a Rock. He was great. Others were great as well. So there are many others that you can that go into the making the professional wrestling and making a professional wrestler, right? So when they want to make Roman Reigns the GOAT, well, how are you going to how are you going to do that, really? Because and some I saw this on Cultaholic, and Sam Driver, he talked about, you know that if you want to make Roman Reigns the GOAT, you would need to for him to, hold the championship for another 5.5 years, to get to the point to where um, he would hold it as long as Bruno Sammartino did. And while I get what he was saying, I don't think you don't have to go that far as well. Um, but I do get his point, because I don't. There's so many things that can happen to make somebody the GOAT. People say John Cena's the GOAT because he's got 16 championships along with Ric Flair, right? Um, but even then, I don't think that is a deal. I don't even think that is a um, I don't even think that is a necessity for that. Like I've just mentioned with everything else I just talked about and the names I just named. But to make Roman Reigns the greatest of all time, yeah, I don't think, I don't think he could be a part of any of that. He would be the greatest of his era, I think. Yeah, and I don't think that would be disputed. He would be the greatest of his era. So that's one thing to do. He would be the greatest Universal Champion of all time. I think you can make him do that. But the greatest of all time, as much as I acknowledge my tribal chief, right? As much as I acknowledge him, as much as the head of the table, the suplexorcist, all of that, Roman Reigns, the greatest of all time, I think it'd be very hard to have Roman Reigns be the greatest of all time in any category other than his era. And I hate saying it, but I think it's the truth. if it wasn't for what our main topic is, this probably would have been our main topic this week on That's a Shoot. What went down with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch last Friday on SmackDown? So it was announced that there was going to be a championship exchange ceremony between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was drafted to Raw, and she was a SmackDown Women's Championship, and Charlotte Flair was drafted to SmackDown, being the Raw Women's Championship. Now I know some people say, well, why didn't you just change, titles? You had a match on Raw where Bianca Belair took on Charlotte Flair. You could have had Bianca won. She would have been the Raw Women's Championship. At Crown Jewel, you would have Sasha Banks won. She would have been the SmackDown Women's Championship. She's the SmackDown Women's Champion, right? And then they could have had Sasha and Bianca 3 at Survivor Series. But guys, that's not the big matchup. You guys know this. The big matchup is Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. You guys know this. And now, you see, there's even more intrigue to this than you know now because of what happened Friday. So apparently from reports, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch both did not like this title exchange ceremony thing. They did not like it because they felt that maybe it would make each one felt that it would make each other, it would make themselves look weak, just by exchanging a ceremony. And in particular, Charlotte Flair. I guess she really felt that. Charlotte Flair has been, I guess, she's been really focused on keeping her character what it is and what it should be, and rightfully so. I totally agree with that. Because she is one of the she is number 2 behind Roman Reigns in star power in that company, and that's God's honest truth. It's God's honest truth. Sorry, Big E. Sorry, Becky Lynch. Sorry, Drew McIntyre. Sorry, Seth Rollins. Sorry to y'all. Sorry to y'all. Roman Reigns is the head of the table, as like he says, and he's up here, and right down behind him. I don't know if you can see it, so I'll put it like this. Right under him is Charlotte Flair, and it's like that, and it's probably been like that for a few years. Definitely for a few years. That's why the original main event of WrestleMania 35 was going to be Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Just the fact that Becky Lynch got hot and they put her in that match, and that they really shouldn't have. But that's neither here nor there. That's reiterating old stuff once again. But so we get to that, and I guess Charlotte Flair, not really liking it, and well, let's go back. Because earlier in the night, Becky Lynch, she makes and she brings up the Becky 2 belts stuff again. So I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I guess what it was supposed to happen was that Charlotte Flair was supposed to give Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Championship, and Becky would give Charlotte the SmackDown Women's Championship. And this is just me talking about it. This isn't from reports. This isn't what Charlotte has said, anything like that. But just from my opinion, I think Charlotte knew that Becky Lynch was, when she would get that title, she would go around holding up, the thing, talking about Becky 2 belts before she would hand over the SmackDown Women's Championship. And she didn't want that. She felt that would make her look bad. And rightfully so. She has no reason to trust Becky Lynch because Becky Lynch, during her time as the man, trying to be, trying to get over and trying to, become some type of superstar, probably went over the edge, and she put something out on Twitter, you may remember, where she was talking about, basically Charlotte Flair going off of TV for a month and not knowing why, but she put a picture up there with her her enhanced chest, and and she's called her plastic, and But, and apparently Charlotte didn't like that. Charlotte didn't like that. Because her and Becky was, they were friends. They were part of the Four Horsewomen, right? They were best friends. It's like Sasha and Bailey were best friends. Her and Becky were best friends. But Becky trying to get over, trying to become a superstar, kind of fucked her over. Went too far. And I don't think Charlotte's ever been able to trust Becky again. So she wasn't going to trust Becky to do the thing where she wouldn't try to show her up. So she did the title and maybe gave it, threw it away and kind of dropped it, from her, right? And so Sonya Deville had her pick it up, pick up the title. Charlotte gave it to Sonya. Sonya gave the title to Becky, and Becky threw the title at Charlotte Flair. And then Sasha came down and they had their thing. They did their normal thing, yada yada yada. So then, now, back to reports. According to reports, they went backstage. And Charlotte Flair and Becky kind of had a screaming match. Becky confronted her to where, wondering what was going on. And so that was reported. It was also reported that Sonya Deville was so mad at Charlotte Flair that she wanted to fight her. And there's been come out reports of everything that people are backstage and not wanting to work with Charlotte, and people backstage are like doing all of this stuff to Charlotte, something like that, and it is awful. It is awful. They seem to be turning on Charlotte Flair. Now, who knows if Charlotte Flair has had a total change? If she's totally changed or if she hasn't been. But if she has changed, I think it might be a little bit for the better. Yeah, but she sees what's happening with Roman and how and what's happening with Roman. And Roman has I've seen Roman has creative control over his character. Maybe one of the only few that does. He has creative control over his character, over what his character does, and anything like that. And Vince lets him because he's Roman Reigns. And I think Charlotte, again, I said she's the female Roman Reigns. I think I think she does deserve that. She doesn't want to be in a situation like she was earlier in the year where she's, in a storyline where her father is sleeping, or they are insinuating that her father is sleeping with a woman that's not, his wife, right? Or anything like that. Well, she doesn't want to be in that storyline. And then there was reports earlier this year that she had been taken off of WrestleMania because there was a pregnancy. They did a checkup on her. She said, "Well, pregnant," and then she went out. And she just couldn't believe it, and she went out and did did like 2 or 3 pregnancy tests herself, and then she found out she wasn't pregnant, and she showed them to the doc, to the WWE doctors and like that. But at that point, they had already taken her off the road, and they taken her off of things like that. So they kept her off of WrestleMania. She didn't do WrestleMania this year. And then there's the whole thing with her and her fiance Andrade asking for his release and giving his release and everything like that. So there's a lot of things that are happening and are going on, that those things that you never know. And she's also going those things too, because listen, we can mention it earlier. She's had problem with her chest. um you know I I'm not sure. I don't know the full thing, but I think what went down is that she she wouldn't get implants originally, and she had those implants for however long. And I think one of them burst. So then she went ahead and she took those, she took that, month and a half off to go to have to have her surgery. And she had to she as doctors will tell you to, right? Doctors will tell you to, um, if you are going to have if you're going to have if you're going to have a breast enhancement surgery, you get them, you get them big, you get them big because they will settle down to a smaller size. Um, and also, what you don't want to do is you don't want to go back and then get something that you think, but then, when you look at them, you say, I wish they were bigger. That's what you don't, because you are already big. That's what doctors would always say, about that surgery. When she came back, her chest was a little bit larger. We all noticed it. We all could see it and everything like that. But again, there was something. Again, something else was there. She put it out on Twitter. I didn't read into it really much because I really felt uncomfortable reading it. Because I have so much respect, and I have so much. Well, I shouldn't use the word respect because I I respect everybody. I respect everybody, and I respect everybody's personal decision when it comes to that in their life and how their looks and things like that. So I shouldn't say respect, but I guess I just have so much admiration for Charlotte Flair, for what she is in the ring as a wrestler, for who she is as a person, for what she has gone through, with her personal life and her brother, and and her past dating stuff. She's talked about that a little bit as well. I have so much respect for her that I kind of felt like, she kind of put it out there. I didn't still felt like it wasn't the right thing to read it or talk or to to know that information about her. But I guess maybe something went wrong, and when they did the thing last year with Charlotte Flair getting her arm hurt by Nia Jax, that's why she took that time off, so that she took that time off to get that done, and then she also just probably needed also a break as well. And then remember she came back earlier. She came back. Did she come back in December or early January? She came back one of those two. She came back in December, early January, and she came back. She teamed with Oscar. She won the tag titles. So with Oscar and things like that. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster of things that are for Charlotte Flair. So I don't know. She was supposed to do media this week. We took her off all those media things and everything. So here we are Friday, and then it is SmackDown, and we'll see what happens. There was no hint of it, from what I could tell, being talked about on Monday Night Raw. I gotta be honest. I was kind of even thinking that maybe Becky would say something because she did a promo. I was thinking maybe Becky would say something, or maybe someone else would say something. And then we'll see if anything is tonight. If Charlotte says something, or if anything else says something tonight. But as we know, Survivor Series is Raw versus SmackDown, you know, I would be shocked if you didn't think it was going to be Becky versus Charlotte now, beforehand, it's got to be Becky and Charlotte now because it's because of the actual real life tension that could be between these two, and and real life tension makes for a good story, makes for a good match. So um, it's gonna be fun to see what goes down tonight. And the top story this week: Ring of Honor is going on hiatus, and maybe maybe even worse. They announced a couple days ago on Wednesday that they was going to go on a hiatus to try to, for the first quarter of the 21-22 season and 22-20 year. Um, and they were going to maybe think about rebranding and everything like that. But they had released, basically released the contracts of the wrestlers and things like that. Although they're still doing television tapings and other things like that. Final Battle in December is going to be, um, it's going to be the thing. I guess the final show for Ring of Honor. And yes, but yeah. So it's unfortunate. A lot of people um, looking for work, and a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be getting work. I'm sure all over the place. WWE, Impact, AEW will all be getting an influx of talent from Ring of Honor. Um, um, that being said, um, there's maybe some thoughts of why this is happening and anything like that. But Sports Illustrated seems to have think about it. An article from Justin Barrasso says chronic mismanagement spelled the demise of Ring of Honor as we know it. The Pioneer Wrestling Company isn't dead, but Sinclair's mistakes prevented it from reaching its full potential. And here's an article. I'll read it to you. AEW aired a fantastic live edition of Dynamite on Wednesday night in Boston, then taped this week's Rampage. The stars involved included Adam Cole, Hangman Page, Cody Rhodes, and the Young Bucks, all of whom were once key players in Ring of Honor. Had ROH correctly utilized its massive reservoir of talent over the past 5 years, it should have been able to put on shows like Dynamite and Rampage. Instead, the once proud company is looking to reimagine its future. Once again, I'll stop right here and just say this is more AEW bullshit stuff. Once again, that people are talking about here. I can guarantee you those were not good. Dynamite was not a good show. And if you don't believe me, tomorrow or Sunday, listen to the Jim Cornette podcast, the Jim Cornette Experience, to find out. He'll be reviewing it and he'll let you know the bullshit that it was. Anyway, let's continue. Ring of Honor, which on multiple occasions redefined the wrestling space, announced Wednesday that it is effectively going to cease operations as a full-time company. ROH COO Joe Koff, who is an executive for Sinclair Broadcast Group, ROH parent company, held a Zoom call for talent to explain the specifics that included everyone being released from their contract. Not everyone from the roster, however, was on the call, which left multiple people, including some top talent, unaware of the massive change. Sports Illustrated confirmed from multiple sources that contracts expiring on or before March 31st, 2022 will be paid out for the duration of the deal. Contracts extending beyond March 31st will necessitate individual meetings between the talent and Sinclair management, most likely to come to terms on a buyout. ROH's first event, The Era of Honor Begins, took place in February of 2002. The promotion was among the industry's insiders as a welcome alternative for WWE and featured emerging stars like CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and Nigel McGuinness. Its financial situation changed significantly in 2011 when Sinclair purchased the promotion. Yet, despite all the benefits of being owned by a major force in broadcasting, ROH never took the steps necessary to become a top player in the industry. It always lacked a signature television show, one that would air on a consistent time and night, even though there were executives within the company, including Koff, who continued to spread the idea that one was coming. Whoever thought that Impact Wrestling would outlast Ring of Honor? This is a devastating development for the talent, who now have one less place to work. And while the pandemic will ultimately bear the brunt of the blame, it is simply not fair to use that as an excuse. When speaking with multiple ROH talent and former office employees, they all shared the same sentiment, telling SI that the end of the company is the result of mismanagement from the top. Ultimately, the company never recovered after allowing the Bucks and Rhodes to leave the company at the end of 2018. Though there was the success of the Madison Square Garden show in 2019, co-promoted with New Japan Pro Wrestling, much of that night's success was due to a combination of what the Bucks, Rhodes, and Kenny Omega, as well as the stars of NJWP, built on ROH shows, and considerable buzz attention placed upon the company was never replicated after Ring of Honor management decided not to invest the money necessary to keep the Bucks and Rhodes. Had they given a respectful offer, especially the Bucks, who were the faces of the company, it is very likely that they never would have left, which forever alters what happens with the creation and success of AEW. Ring of Honor Wednesday's statement explained that the company will go on hiatus after its final battle paper in December. We anticipate returning to live events in April for the Supercard of Honor with a new fan-focused product and provide a unique experience for wrestling fans, it continued. If Ring of Honor is sincere in its desire to run Supercard of Honor in April, it is odd that talent's contracts were not extended to include that date. For years, Ring of Honor offered a savings of zero net loss to Sinclair. The company will likely explain its new business model on an ability to recover from the pandemic, during which Ring of Honor was still paying talent contracts even when not running shows. But the truth is that the product was stale and shows were unable to sell tickets. Impact and Major League Wrestling should benefit from the wealth of talent suddenly hitting the free agent market, but the pool is diluted since the talent from diluted for the talent since the market is now flooded with free agents. The Ring of Honor tape library is also available and will go to the highest bidder. Ring of Honor probably is trying to move the library, the Sinclair-owned archive from 2012 on, for more than a year. That includes the All-In pay-per-view in September 28, which was the precursor to AEW. While AEW owns the trademark, it is Ring of Honor that owns the footage. SI learned that the company is asking for more than the current market dictates, and while it once seemed like WWE would be a major factor in pursuit of the tape library, it slightly makes sense now considering WWE, considering that so many former Ring of Honor stars have exited WWE. Backed by Sinclair, Ring of Honor possessed every tool necessary to flourish in the pro wrestling space. Its demise is an unavoidable and sad end to a pioneer of a wrestling company. So that's from Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated. So here are my thoughts. Again, I think it is a shame that they have to do this. I really do. I think while now I don't want to say they have to do this because they decided to continue to pay their superstars and wrestlers during the pandemic, because that was nice for them to do. Um, but if that will be one of the causes of Ring of Honor, then I think the demise of Ring of Honor. I think we have to look at that and say, well, was that the best idea? You know, who knows? I don't know. I don't know if we can say that. I think, fuck. Many people they ripped WWE for letting go of talent during the pandemic. But I think what they, and Ring of Honor and WWE are totally different because we're talking about WWE, the number one wrestling organization in the world, billion-dollar contracts, things like that. But still, they still was running like a business, like you should. And they had to let go of some people that, wasn't, that they wasn't using, that were making too much money, so that they could, survive during the pandemic. And some people are always like, they needed to survive during the pandemic. Well, yes, they needed to survive. As we all needed to survive during the pandemic. We all needed to have, that those checks come, those stimulus checks and things like that. So we all need to survive during the pandemic. But Ring of Honor decided to continue to pay their wrestlers, and there's no shame in that either. There's no shame in what WWE did. There's no shame in what Ring of Honor did. They ran their business two different ways. So it's incredible. It's also incredible what he writes when he talks about them not keeping Cody Rhodes in the Bucks. There's a part of me that wonders, is that true? Is a part of me that wonders, is that the case? Do they not give the Bucks and Cody Rhodes what they wanted to stay in Ring of Honor, or wouldn't it not have mattered? Because it really does seem like that there was like an underlying thing. It was an underlying thing for the longest time about there being a Tony Khan trying to start a wrestling company, and kind of started with you know the people who were there in the elite. So that's why it's called All Elite Wrestling. Maybe if it was you know maybe he didn't have them, maybe we would call it someone else. Or maybe Tony Khan doesn't even do it because, well, maybe Tony Khan instead of starting his own, maybe he buys Impact Wrestling. Who knows what changes and what happens and everything like that, right? But I would say this as someone who hates this AEW bullshit that even this guy writing the article tried to push it on everybody that AEW does great shows all the fucking time. It would be great not to have AEW around. It really would. Um, Although, but I guess you would say if it's if it's not if it's if it's still stuff still happens and Ring of Honor it closes, then AEW is another place for these people to work. And I guess you can't hate on that, right? You can hate on the biased bullshit that comes from people's mouths about AEW, but you can't hate on the fact that AEW give another place for wrestlers to go. So, and that's always good. So yeah, really quickly, with my things about Ring of Honor, I went to a Ring of Honor show in 2006 with a friend, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I told people after the show, if you did not like wrestling, if you went to that show, you came from that show, you would like wrestling. That's how good that show was. It was in Illinois, the Chicago area around Illinois. Samoa Joe was there. Daniel Bryan was there. He was fighting Colt Cabana at that show. There was probably some other things too. I think maybe the Heroes of Wrestling was there. Claudio and or now Cesaro and Chris Hero. Um, Cassius Ono. So I can't remember the rest of the places people that we saw, but it was a great show. And yes, Ring of Honor did. There's a lot of talent that started at Ring of Honor that we now see, and not only the Young Bucks and and things like that, but what's Seth Rollins, who was Tyler Black, he was at Ring of Honor. Adam Cole was there. So was people like Bobby Fish and and many others were at Ring of Honor. So they you know if Ring of Honor does fall to a demise, and next year at this time there is no Ring of Honor, you can definitely say that Ring of Honor put a stamp on this business. I think you can definitely say that. I don't know if you can say it's important. There have been some people who've been saying that it's the most important wrestling organization of the last decade, and I would no. As long as WWE is around, WWE will always be, the most important wrestling organization in the world, and they have been for 30, 40 years, and that will never change. But but you still give Ring of Honor credit because they did have influence in this business, and that's something that you can give them credit for if this does turn out to be a demise for Ring of Honor. All right, y'all, that's gonna be it for this week's episode of That's a Shoot. Make sure you're here next week for another sparkling edition. We'll find some things to talk about, as we always do. Man, who knows? if something happens tonight, we may be talking about that next week, just like last week. So you never know. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about WWE's pay-per-view schedule, about WWE trying to make Roman Reigns the greatest of all time. What went down with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, and of course the unfortunate thing that's going on with Ring of Honor right now. Them stopping being a full-time company, releasing their wrestlers, and what might end up being a demise, a full demise, where Ring of Honor would never run a show again after Final Battle in December. That's kind of, I can't believe it just came out of my mouth. Wow. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJTRIP signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there, and I am out.